I saw him when he played in Dublin in 2016 on
Okay.
the River Tour. Well, let me just say it was the River themed tour by that point,
Yes.
because he was he was playing the album in full in different parts of the States, if not all of it, from
Yeah.
what I can remember. And then when he announced at the end of the American leg that, oh, he's going to be opening up the set a little bit when he comes to Europe, I was gutted because I was really looking forward to hearing the whole River album in full, which is not something I'd ever think I'd hear before or since. And I mean, maybe it's a thing, the full album concept of his, his whole like connection with fans, through the albums, like that may
Yeah.
be a thing more with his American audience, and his European audience would know him by more of his greatest hits. So I can't be too hard on him, but I was a little bit disappointed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and joining me today in a timey-wimey episode, one of my favorites, where it's my morning and it's my guest's afternoon. Shane, how you doing today?
How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
It is very good. So, Shane Alger, you are coming from Scotland, I believe, correct?
Ireland, Dublin, the
Ireland.
Republic of
That's right.
Ireland.
Damn it.
You're close enough.
Oh, okay. Now I need to edit that out. Holy shit. And I
It's
just
all
had
right.
told you tried not to cuss, and here I am starting right away. Tell us a little about yourself, buddy.
Oh well, I've been into I've been into Bruce and his music for music in general for years, going back to the time I was a teenager. I always had CDs in the parents' car and was listening to music when I was on going on road trips, or when I was going to wherever it is needed to go, to shops or
Hmm.
wherever. And then I started playing music when I was in my early teens, and I just kind of got into a who's who of artists that my folks had turned me on to, Bruce being included. And I suppose you could say it's been a lifelong thing, more or less. And I love it. That's kind of how I got into the whole music scene.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to start with. Is it sounded like music was a big part of your family's when you were a kid. It was a big part of y'all's life.
Yeah, you could say that
Hmm.
it was certainly there, all right. But I think I'm probably more into it now at this stage
Oh, I
than
bet
anyone
you
else in the
were.
family.
Yeah. What kind of music did your family listen to, and that you kind of got? You mentioned that you were listening to their music. What's some examples of some of the bands and musicians?
Yeah, well, nothing in particular. I mean, they usually had like the greatest hits
Okay.
compilations, whereas I would have been more into like Elvis and the Beatles
Yeah.
and Bob Dylan, to name but a few.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I got into a whole mix of different types of music, from you know uh, rock and roll,
Hmm.
and up to like folk and country and blues and a bit of jazz and soul
Okay.
and that kind of thing. So it's and also different types of music from around the world. So it's been an ever expanding and ever growing love.
That's
Proud to say
cool.
that. Yeah.
Well, can you remember when you first discovered Bruce? And if you can, why did he speak to you?
Probably first discovered Bruce in particular. Well, it was a long time ago I would have first heard his name, but when I first properly got into him now, let me think, how would that have came about? Um, well, I was always big into Bob Dylan, and
Okay.
Dylan was the one I think whose songs really kind of spoke to me the most. And then I know he'd influenced generation of artists to come. Bruce would obviously be very high up on the. He'd always regard Dylan as one of his greatest musical influences.
Yeah.
So it was probably about 5 or 6 years after I really got into Bob Dylan that I started to actually take a genuine interest in Bruce. And the first album I think I probably got into was Wrecking Ball. I think I got it for as a birthday present when around the year it came out. And I didn't really think much of it at first, but then when I actually took the liberty of sticking it on maybe a year or two later, I really just fell in love with it. And then I found myself kind of going through his entire back catalogue. And as I obviously was a bit older then, and I was interested in my love of the different styles of music was expanding. I think I developed a very keen interest in Bruce and the E Street Band. Yeah. And all the different records, I found that they all had something to offer.
Yeah. From my perspective, there's a little bit of an Irish, influence in Wrecking Ball, more than some
Mm,
of his other stuff. But then that's probably
yeah.
uh, my uninitiated ears. Do you see that any at all? Like with American Land and some of the other
Mm.
songs?
Yeah, no, you'd be forgiven for getting or trying to get the whole Irish vibe on Wrecking Ball.
Yeah,
There are songs that I think definitely draw from a bit of Irish influence, and
yeah,
to my knowledge, Bruce, I think it was his father, came from Irish heritage, so there was Irish that kind of runs in his blood, which I think has kind of given him a big admiration for the country. And he I can definitely hear it on a number of tracks that he's done. Bruce would have been into the Clancy brothers and Pete Seeger,
yes,
all who would have drawn from and Peter, Paul, and Mary. I think they
yeah,
would have all drawn from the real traditional Irish and Scottish greats.
yeah.
And there's an overlap there. So. Um, yeah, it's definitely something that I think would definitely show him some, not all, but some of the Bruce or the Street Band's music.
Yeah, what was interesting, right, is they ended up recording the Seeger session concert in Dublin, and
Mm,
and you felt that um, the energy of that band, and it seemed like um, the common thought, Shane, is that European shows have a different vibe than American shows. And so I think that was a good example of that, showing, just the energy of that show and the excitement that the folks there were enjoying the music.
Yeah, no. Again, I personally, I'm inclined to think that that's more of a myth because you're always going to get a good show, no matter wherever you play. You
Yeah,
always have your selection of fans from any given continent. But I think what makes the Irish stand out, and again, it's all a myth, but we are known for being quite big fans of the old booze. So
yeah,
I think that's something that would definitely be obvious at Bruce's concerts.
you
He get
know,
offered a drink
I
for all
kind
the
of
fans in front of the pit.
I laugh at that with the with American football, right? We'll talk
Mm,
about that, a like a later game, like the afternoon game or the evening game when it's playing on either Sunday night or Monday night, where the fans have had all day to tailgate and then to
mm.
be oiled up, as they say. And so then once the game starts, the enthusiasm has been amped by artificial means, shall we say. So
Right.
saying the same
Yeah.
thing for the shows.
Yeah. No, it definitely is it's certainly definitely considered part of popular culture,
Yeah.
but each country I think has their own has their own unique culture, and
Yeah.
that's what I think is obvious when an artist like Bruce travel to the various different countries for playing concerts.
So Shane, kind of getting into him late during the Wrecking Ball tour or the album, have you had a chance to see him live?
I saw him when he played in Dublin in 2016 on
Okay.
the River Tour. Well, let me just say it was the River themed tour by that point,
Yes.
because he was he was playing the album in full in different parts of the States, if not all of it, from
Yeah.
what I can remember. And then when he announced at the end of the American leg that, oh, he's going to be opening up the set a little bit when he comes to Europe, I was gutted, because I was really looking forward to hearing the whole River album in full, which is not something I'd ever think I'd hear before or since. And I mean, maybe it's a thing, the full album concept of his, his whole like connection with fans, through the albums, like that may
Yeah.
be a thing more with his American audience, and his European audience would know him by more of his greatest hits. So I can't be too hard on him, but I was a little bit disappointed.
Shane, what's funny, right, is this is a prime example of you can't win. I know that a lot of people in the US were saying, oh man, I can't believe you're doing the same album every night.
Mm.
Oh, what have you become a greatest hits tour, Bruce? Oh, what, how sad. And then when he decided to change, I saw just as many people going, what? No, if I had
Yeah,
known, like, the people that had the financial wings, like, if I had known, I would have flown to the US to, taken my
mm,
holiday pay to go to have a chance to see that album at one. So, I'm sure if you're Bruce,
yeah.
you can't catch a break, which, either way, I'm going to get complaints.
That's the thing, it can be a two-way thing. And to be fair, it was mostly, I remember the two concerts, they had a lot of river themed stuff in
Yes,
them.
they did.
Not the full album by any means, but they did
Yeah.
have a lot of they did have a few of quite a few of the songs, more so than other albums.
Yeah.
But
So,
again, Bruce has to play, has to play like all his really big hits, if not all of them, so as the fans will be able to sing along and dance and have fun. It's not all about the he likes to base it on his hits, and also then a lot of album tracks, and he can pick and choose between those when it comes to his concerts. At least that's what I found.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I've had this discussion with a couple of people, Shane, that like one of my best buddies, Sam, said, I, he's gone, over 20 times. And he's like, get rid of Born to Run and give me another track. Right. And I'm like, but Sam, if you've never seen a Bruce concert before, how disappointed are you going to be if this is your first show and you don't get Born to Run live? Right?
Mm,
So you
exactly.
do have to find that middle ground of what to do. And, because when you think about it, Born in the USA had so many top 10 hits. Like,
Mm.
there are other artists that no way they wouldn't play every one of those songs every show. And he doesn't do
No,
that.
no, I think he only did Born in the USA on the second night of the concert, which
Yeah.
kind of, he always plays Born to Run at every concert, but Born in the USA, I think, is something that he tends to sing if it suits him, and
I
Born
think
in the
so.
USA was arguably his most commercial album, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it was a great album by any means, but um, it's definitely the one that I think worked most well with expanding his audience at the time all those years ago.
So one of the things that we talked about via Twitter is you are a major Working on a Dream fan, aren't you?
To anybody listening on your podcast that would probably want to shoot me down for saying this, yes, I love Working on a Dream. It's a gem.
Very nice. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, thank you for asking, Jesse, and it's great to be able to discuss the real meaning of one of Bruce's most underrated records of all time. Now, the thing is, like, during the actually, do I have Working on a Dream here? I must. I do.
Okay.
The well, it was one of the first albums I think I actually started listening to shortly after I got into the Boss. The I liked all of his more later period stuff,
Yeah.
The Rising, Magic, Devils and Dust, and the Seeger sessions. I felt they all had their things, moments to offer, and the Wrecking Ball was obviously like the real game changer for me because that's the album that got me into Bruce.
Yeah.
But Working on a Dream, I felt compared to the others was like the others were so hard hitting. They were very, they were very dark. A lot of the songs they were very you could tell that in a lot of the music, Bruce kind of came across as troubled. I feel, especially in Magic, when that, if I remember correctly, was based on the George Bush era, in
Absolutely.
his term in the presidency, and how the Americans were just trying to deal with that and the daily frustrations and everything in between that came. Whereas Working on a Dream, to me, it was kind of like Bruce taking a step back from all that, needing to rebel, needing to protest, needing to sound so angry all the time, and actually write something that shows the beauty in his life and how lucky he is, and how there is a lot of good in his life, even if with the other records would say otherwise. It's Bruce at his happiest, and that's what I think, and it's kind of where the studio sound, like the whole band, and not to mention Clarence last
Hmm.
album, which definitely takes on a whole new meaning. I find,
Sure.
it's where the whole band and where Bruce himself just kind of come into one. It's Bruce kind of realizes how lucky he is to have Paddy in his life, and how lucky he is to have the band after all these years, and just what beauty he's been blessed with, really. And that's where, I think you realized that a lot of fans weren't going to take well to happy songs, but there are many that would appreciate the beauty behind it. And well, I'm proud to say I'm one of them.
No,
Long live Working on a Dream.
I have a similar affection to Devils and Dust because
Hmm.
my first show was a Rising tour show in 2002.
Mhm.
And I had not, as I've told the story other times, I had not done my homework, as I make air quotes. I had not listened to The Rising over and over and over again before the show. So when Devils and Dust came out, I listened to that thing over and over, just had it on repeat over and over again. So then when he toured for Devils and Dust, like, to hear all these songs that were on the album live was just a joy to me. So I always have a lot of affection for that, album because of how much it meant to me. It was one of the first um, new albums that I had gotten right along, and then
Yeah.
since then, of course, Magic, Working on a Dream, even High Hopes, which I know a lot of people say that's kind of a hodgepodge of an album, but there are songs on that I
Mm.
love. Um,
Agreed.
yeah, I think Queen of the Supermarket might be what people think of, and they go, "Oh, see, it's crap,"
Uh,
and I'm like,
the
It doesn't
the
work for
one
me."
song people think of when they hear Working on a Dream. Yeah.
Yes, hmm but
And
I go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I find that Queen of the Supermarket, though, I mean, it could be Bruce kind of reminiscing over a time in his heyday.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's
yeah,
just he's just reflecting on a beautiful girl that he wants to do in the supermarket,
yeah.
and the music is gorgeous.
I do love Surprise Surprise, and I love the
Yes,
story
agreed.
about that. He woke up after dreaming and remembered it, and he said normally they're all crap, right? But this one was one who goes, "Oh, this is good."
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. Have you listened to Letter to You?
Yes, it's a great album. Yeah.
Hmm.
I do think it's a fantastic album. Again, the sound of a band playing the rock and roll that they've been indulging in for decades now at this point, and just celebrating that.
Yeah.
Uh,
So um, I think if I was the priest, and I've said this a couple times, is what Outlaw Pete wanted to be. So for
mhm.
some reason, I see these two songs connected. Maybe because they have both the Western, kind of theme. I know that I liked Outlaw Pete a lot more, and this is
Yep.
silly, but I bought the children's illustrated book,
All
because
right.
I'm a completist. And then by seeing the beautiful photos and reading the lyrics, the song kind of added another level to me.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I can get that. I still haven't actually read that children's fable yet, but
yeah,
I probably should, because no, I like to think I'm a Bruce completist as well.
yeah.
But
Well,
uh,
there is no
yeah,
extra words. It's just the lyrics. But then, an illustrator did a beautiful, um, uh, you know, illustration of all the lyrics and kind of told the
sure.
story of, Outlaw Pete and losing his child and all this stuff. It's a beautiful story when you see it drawn out.
The thing about Outlaw Pete is, and I would agree with what you're saying, that there is definitely a beautiful story behind it. But I think one of the reasons people came to dislike it was because of the fact that it sounded like a very similar to a song by Kiss, "I Was Made for Loving You." And they
Yes.
take it as a bit of a rip off of that song. I hear the similarity in rhythm, but I wouldn't no way say it's a rip off.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could get that. It is, sometimes there are similarities that you don't mean to do, right?
Yeah.
And especially two songs of very different kind of
Backgrounds.
themes and
Yeah.
feelings. Yeah, I could totally get that. Yeah. Well, in addition to any other tracks on the album that kind of speak to you personally?
Well, what do I particularly love? Life itself. That's a song I can connect on a very deep level with, for personal reasons. Just the lyrics and in that song kind of remind me of someone in my life,
Hmm.
uh, and I find it's a song that I keep going back to for that reason. And it's a song that I think speaks volumes,
Hmm.
and a song that Bruce has never played live. But if I'm holding up a cardboard sign at one of the next concerts, I never know, it could change. Although I doubt you'd probably be able to do it impromptu. But anyway,
Hmm.
um,
No, no,
go
no.
on.
That's interesting. No, because I always ask that question, right? What are songs that on the next tour or on your wish list that you would want to see? So that would be one that would make your list, right?
Yeah, for sure. And what else is particularly? Uh, I love The Last Carnival and The
Mm.
Wrestler. They
Yeah.
are both masterpieces. And I think I could probably name nearly, I'd say all the tracks, because I feel that they all have something. Kingdom of Days, I've sang that at about, I sang that at my cousin's wedding a few years back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they definitely they definitely felt that that was the perfect song to
Hmm.
kind of lead them off on their honeymoon and whatnot.
Yeah, that's lovely. Now, you mentioned you
So,
make a little music yourself. Tell me a little bit about that.
well, at this stage, I have kind of played a bit of guitar going back over the years, and like I've tried to write a few songs here and there, but at this stage, I'm more into bass.
Okay.
I much prefer playing the bass, and that's something that I definitely want to keep going now in my life as long as I can,
So
because
you
it's
want to be
just a
Gary, right?
if I could.
Yes. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Gary keeps the
Yeah.
foundation of the band, right?
What I love about the bass is that it feels to me like the heartbeat of the music, and
Yes.
it definitely feels like the soul of the songs, and that's where I kind of led it to be my favorite instrument.
Do That's interesting, and I love that. And do um, what what as I was trying to think about, and you just kind of answered that. So tell me about other songs or albums that mean a lot to you. They don't necessarily have to be Bruce albums, but share what kind of your musical, that you go to when you're needing to celebrate or need comfort.
Okay. There's so many. It's
Sure.
really hard to kind of narrow it down. Um, but let me think now for a minute.
Sure.
Uh, well, Revolver by the Beatles, I mean, immediately comes to mind. That's
Yeah.
probably my favorite album by my favorite band,
Hmm.
and I find that that there's comfort in many of the songs on Revolver. And another one that would immediately spring to mind would be Highway 61 Revisited
Yeah.
from Bob, and not to mention a Blonde on Blonde and Blood on the Tracks, and who else now? Um, Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street. That would be another great one.
Yeah.
I can think of Van Morrison's Astral Weeks and Moondance,
Yeah.
and Neil Young After the Gold Rush,
Mhm.
Harvest. Um, Man, there's just so much out there. I could be sitting here naming them all day with you.
Yeah,
But
no, I get that. Did
tell you what, maybe we'll just stick to it. We'll just I named a few others there, but just because we're on Bruce,
yeah.
we'll stick to the boss. But I think if I really needed that comfort from the boss, as you say, like Nebraska, hands down. That's one album that I'd definitely would put my headphones on and just lie down or sit down and just let it take me to a whole to a whole different world.
Nebraska's an interesting album, and a lot of people love it. And what I think is amazing is how some of the songs, like Atlantic City, has become a full E Street Band song.
It
That
has. I
even
love
though
the way it's evolved.
yeah, and they did that. And then the other thing I was laughing at is like Open All Night with the Seeker Sessions, a totally different song. Just it's
Yeah,
so joyous and fun, and it's the flexibility of Bruce's music sometimes between
yes.
him doing this and how depending on which version they're doing and which band just sounds totally different.
Yeah, he has the potential for all sorts of variations of style
Yeah.
within his different tunes, and those that he's done acoustically, they're on a whole different ball game sometimes when played with the E Street Band, namely the Atlantic City and the Ghost of Tom Joad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Name too. Yeah.
So what what you mentioned, obviously hearing a couple from Kingdom, from working on Dream. What are other songs that would be on your wish list next time you see him live that you would love to hear him pull out?
Right. Let's go with something a bit more not so well known. Okay, so I obviously mentioned Life Itself.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, well, picked one from Working on a Dream. Now let's think of something else. Um, hmm, it's a very good question because there's a lot of in-depth album tracks that he wouldn't go about playing on a on at his
Well, a lot of
at very
people,
many.
Shane, as I asked that question, people that were lucky enough to go to the River Tour, back in 2016, said I got a
Yeah,
lot of the ones I wanted to hear because him doing that whole
yeah.
album, checked off a few boxes for people.
Oh, I think I definitely would put straight State Trooper
Yeah.
on the list. It's not one that I don't he would do on a regular basis, but it's something about that song I find has has connected with me on quite a personal level.
Yeah, that would
I'd love
be.
to hear him do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that you would love to hear a whole band version of Nebraska, right? Like they did.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be. Yeah, that would be pretty exciting. I could see that.
yeah,
Absolutely. Good. Any
yeah.
right offhand you can think of?
Yes. Question is which ones? I'm trying to think of the albums and okay, maybe the line from
Okay.
Ghost of Tom Joad.
Yeah.
That would also be a Carl Hunger is a powerful thing. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's very good.
yeah. Or from Devils and Dust, the hitter. I found there was something I could in that song that I was able to hear a little of myself, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I was lucky enough on the Devils and Dust tour. I heard Jesus Was an Only Son, and
Oh
that
yeah, I
was
love the
really
song.
beautiful live. That was very, very beautiful live. So
He
that
always sung acoustic,
yes, yes.
and he did too many of his hits acoustically. Or
No, he didn't. He did not. Like that's the one show he did not. I've attended. That's the only show he did not play Born to Run at. Uh, you
okay.
know, um, he did do the Rising. That's the one song that every time I've seen him, he's done the Rising. That was kind of interesting to see. Um, what have I not asked you that I should have, Shane?
Well, I think, to my knowledge, we've kind of covered, you know, most of most of what would need to be covered on
Okay.
a Bruce and E Street front. So
Okay.
I'm quite
Good.
happy with that.
All right. Well, then, before I let you go, I've got to ask you the Mary question. So,
Mhm.
if you're a friend of Shane's and you're listening to this going, wow, Shane did a really good job. Uh, but what is the Mary question? Well, Jay Armstrong is an honors English teacher. He just recently retired in the Philadelphia area, and he would every year his seniors would spend 2 days of their curriculum breaking apart Thunder Road. They would look at all the lyrics, they would look at the imagery Bruce used, they'll talk about the themes of the song, and at the end of the 2 days, Jay asked the class, does Mary get in the car? So, Shane, that is your question. Does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
Hmm. Yes, I think she does.
Okay.
I think she certainly does. There's no
Okay.
question.
Very nice. Good. Any want to explain why your thoughts? Why do you think that?
Well, a lot of the idea behind Bruce's songs is to keep you guessing. You know, is there a happy ending or is there a not so happy ending? But you always have to look on the bright side.
Very well said. I agree.
Yeah.
That's good. Any final thoughts you want to share with us?
Well, listen, I think all I can say now is well, first of all, thanks for having me on your podcast. It was a pleasure, and I hope that Bruce and the band, and in fact, pretty much not just all of his bands, but everybody is continuing to stay safe, and stay isolated and stay well, most
Yes.
importantly. And Bruce wasn't kidding when he said he didn't think the uh, the um, uh, the Letter to You tour would happen this year. The Wasn't a surprise at all. I mean, we were hoping that that after last year with the rollout that concerts may be able to return to some capacity. But no, I think Bruce is, according to what the professor of immunology is saying around America, and also our professor of immunology over
Yeah.
here. It's highly likely that it will be next year before anything happens. And as Bruce said, he considered the concert industry lucky should it happen. But we live in hope. And
Yeah.
I hope,
Yes.
one day, he believes one day we will get out to see him live in concert again. I believe we will too. So may we all be reunited when the time is right
Amen.
in a
I totally
post-COVID
agree.
world.
Yes, that is we need that live music. We need that joy that he gives us. So well said, sir. Are you on any social media that you want to share?
Uh, yeah, people would want to follow me on Twitter. It's at Alger Shane. That's ALGERSHANE. So you can give me a
Okay.
follow there, and I'll happily tweet back.
Very nice. I'll get that to you. Uh, Shane, this was great. I appreciate your time. This was so much fun. I'm glad you took a little bit of your Sunday afternoon and shared with me. I hope one day that we can meet in person at a show and embrace and share a beverage and just sing our heads off, just, acting like fools because we're the joy of live music, right?
Likewise, yep, you said it.
All right.
Please
Very
God,
good.
it will happen.
Yes. All right, listeners, you be safe. Remember social distance. Remember to wash your hands. Remember to wear a mask. And let's all be good to each other because that's the only way we're going to get through this. For now, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. Doing a podcast at times can be a one-way conversation, and I hate that. So please let me know what you like and don't like about the work I'm doing. You can reach the podcast via email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at SetListingBruce, and my personal Twitter is at JesseJacksonDFW. We have a website, www.setlistingbruce.com. From there, you can find links to other Springsteen podcasts as well as other music-themed podcasts. We have a page devoted to our own SLB All-Star Band. These are guests who have been on the podcast more than 3 times. There is a link to our store where you can purchase Set Listing Bruce shirts as well as a Merry Question t-shirt. There is a link to our Patreon page where you can sign up to help support the podcast financially. We have different levels and different rewards based on your support. If you don't have any extra cash, and right now who does, you can support the podcast by subscribing via your favorite podcast player and leaving us a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for people to find us. And please tell a friend about the podcast, especially if they love Bruce or music, because it will make a difference.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is part of the Southgate Media podcast group. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.